Now, the filter function can be really helpful when using large data sets and we want to narrow it down to information we're interested in. It can help us with dynamic dashboards and reporting, with data validation, and with general data cleaning. Now, to get us started, we'll see that the filter function is going to ask us for an array, what to include, and what to happen if it's empty. And another way to think about that is, what is the data we want to filter? What is the criteria we want to base that filter on? And what to happen if we don't have any data to return. So let's see the filter function in action. So looking at our data set over to the left, we have some home sale data. And let's say we want to narrow it down to just the data where the type is house. So we can start by taking our filter function. The data that we want to include will be this entire array of data, so we can highlight all of that. In this case, we only want to include the records from this data if the type is house. So we can highlight this column. And we only want to include it if it's equal to house. So we can type that in there. And for the if empty, that's an optional argument, so we can leave that blank and close out our formula. And here we can see off to the right, we have our data set that's now filtered to only including data with the type house. And now the filter function is very flexible. So let's say we wanted to only filter our data to homes with prices over $1 million. We could shift that array over. Instead of equal house, we could do greater than $1 million. And there we can see that our data is now filtered on records with only prices greater than $1 million. We could do the same thing if we're interested in only homes sold that had a 4-car garage or bigger. So we could then change this to anything greater than 3. In this case, we have all the houses with car garages 4 or greater. And we also filter out blank records. So let's say we want to just filter out any data where we didn't have when the year it was built. So we do column J is not equal to, and then 2 quotations, so not equal to anything blank. And there we can see that we have only filtered to the records with the year built. And to build on this formula, we can also get a little more fancy, and if say we wanted to also sort our data, we could wrap our filter in the sort function. And in this case, let's say we wanted to sort by price, or sort index would be our second column, which would be here, so we would put it 2. And our sort order we'll want to do from highest price to lowest, so that'll be descending, so we can do -1, close that. And there we can see that our price is now from high to low. Now, the next question you might ask yourself is, what if I want to filter on more than one criteria? So let's see how we can do that with the filter function. So let's start from scratch, and let's say we want to filter for if the type is house and the agent is Homestead Realty Group. So let's put that off to these columns, and we'll start our filter function again. In this case, we still want to highlight our same data set. And now we get into how do we include multiple criteria here. So let's do our first one, which will be when type equals house, which we saw that in our first example, house. And actually, since we have it pasted up here, we actually should reference this, which will be handy for us. And now to get our second criteria, we have to get a little fancy with the filter function and wrap this in a parenthesis. And from here, we can multiply it by our second criteria. So we'll use our asterisk. And now we can start our second criteria, which is agent is a Homestead Realty Group. So let's highlight that column. And if that equals this cell, So once again, we can type it or reference a cell. And now let's close that. And we have to have 2 parentheses at the end to close our formula. And now we can see that our data is filtered for records that are type house and agent homestead realty group. And so that's how to include AND logic. The other thing with filter, let's say if we wanted to do OR logic, all we would need to do is change this asterisk to a plus sign. And now we have records that are house or homestead realty group. And with this filter function, if we wanted to, let's go back to our AND criteria. And let's say we wanted to keep adding criteria, we would just repeat the same process of adding another asterisk here, and then our third criteria, and so on and so forth for what we want. So that's how to do that. And once again, with this, we can also use our sort function. And we can, let's say, sort by price if that's what we're interested in. So 2 would minus 1 to get the highest price to the top for these records. And let's say we like that we have all this data here, but we're not really interested in all of this data. We're only interested in our date, our price, and the land size. So how can we narrow down this data set? Well, we could, if we wanted to, we could go through and just hide these extra columns. That might be one way that we could approach it. So just we have those 3. Another one that we could also use with the filter function is nesting within the choose column function. And this will let us know from this array which columns are we actually interested in. So we can go all the way to the end of our formula over here. Let's say we're interested in our date, which is the first column, our price, which is the second column, and we're interested in land size, which is our 9th column. Then we can close that formula. And then from here, we can just copy the land size over to here, and we can delete these. And there we have our data filtered to home from house, homestead realty group, and just the columns we're interested in. So just to show a few different examples of being more flexible with the filter function, some of the different options we have with it, including multiple criteria. If we wanted to sort the data that's filtered. So very useful function that can help, as I mentioned in the beginning, with reporting, cleaning up our data, or just extracting the information that we're going to be interested in diving into further.